Notice my table's empty. For those of you that have been watching, you'll know what that means. Hey, we'll start this lesson on flight in about 34 seconds. Once I confirm that all systems are go, I'll make sure that everything's working, make sure the audio is working, make sure the feed is doing what it's supposed to do. There we go. Looks good. We'll start in about 16 seconds. This lesson about flight. I hope you enjoy it. I'm looking forward to it myself. Where are we at? 6 seconds to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson about flight. Flight refers to flying, birds, airplanes, the things that are in the air above us. I always wonder, what was it like thousands of years ago when humans looked up and they saw birds flying in the air and they dreamt of being able to fly. So in this lesson, we'll talk about flight. Excuse me. In this lesson, we'll talk about flight. We'll talk about everything that flies in the air. We'll talk about birds. We'll talk about airplanes. We'll talk about helicopters, all of the things that fly. And obviously the things that humans invented so they could fly as well. So once again, welcome to this English lesson about flight. Well, hey, how's everybody doing? I just want to say that this lesson is inspired by, if you're wondering how I come up with ideas, this came from, in a comment or two, Judith was talking about her parrot. And I think the parrot's name is Lena, correct? That's what Mode said. So one of my regular viewers has a parrot. And I thought, I haven't done a lesson about flight. I've done lessons about air travel, and I've done lessons about, traveling via airplane and those kinds of things. But I haven't done one about flight in general. So I hope this goes well. So thanks for getting a parrot, Judith, and giving me an idea for a lesson. A couple things before we get started. Number one, I should check the audio because it just made a weird... Oh, that's all working good. A couple things before we get started. Please use the chat to have enjoyable and fun English conversations between each other. I think most of the regulars are aware that that's what I expect in the chat. Please don't use other languages. You're here to learn English, so read and write in English as best as you can. And the other thing is, if you have a question, you can use the link that's in the description below, or you can use the link that I'm going to pin in the chat right now from Nightbot. That will take you to a form, and you can use that form to ask a question about flight. If you ask a question that's off topic, I'll just skip it. It seems rude, but I like to keep the lesson on topic as much as possible. So hi to Wanda, Ralph, Nightbot, Mode Eggs, Know That, John Wedge, Lolly Lolly, Hafiez, Freddie's here, Asim, Judith, of course, Hite, Yasmin, Vitor, Key Park, Hafiez, I think I've said twice now, and everyone else who is here. If I forgot your name, I apologize. It's good to see all of you. Good to see the familiar faces. So here we go. Freddie is singing Fly Me to the Moon. There we go. We already have a song coming in. Is that Frank Sinatra? I'm not sure. I don't always know the source of the song. But anyways, should we get started? I think we probably should. I do have to go to work in an hour, but I'm feeling a little chatty today. When you're chatty, you talk a lot. But let's get started. To fly. So let's start with the verb to fly. We use this verb to talk about everything that is in the air. An airplane will fly. A bird will fly. A bat will fly. A helicopter will fly. So when you want to talk about something that moves through the air beautifully, something that soars, something that glides, we have a few other verbs as well. The general verb and the most correct verb to use is the verb to fly. And you can also use this verb to talk about what you're going to do. So this airplane is flying, and you could say, I am going to fly to Paris next week. So the verb, the most common verb and the best verb to use is the verb to fly when you're talking about birds and airplanes and other things. And then we have the word flight. So flight simply refers to the same thing. And you can use sentences like this, like the bird was in flight. These people are in flight right now. So flight refers to, again, everything that can do what humans can't do on their own. Birds, bats. Bats are a little scary, but we have the word flight, the noun flight. And what makes flight possible? So when you need to fly, most of the time, you need to have wings. You need to have a wing. So an airplane will have a wing on each side. A bird will have a wing as well. And the wing is the part of the airplane or the part of the bird or the flying squirrel. By the way, there are flying squirrels as well, that allows that thing or that animal to fly. There are other ways for things and animals to fly, but a wing is probably the most common. When you see an eagle flying in the sky, it has two large wings. When you see an airplane at the airport, it will have two large wings and then smaller wings at the back. They're not actually called wings at the back, but you will have two really large wings on an airplane, and a bird will have wings as well. And why do you need a wing? So we're getting a little scientific here. You need to generate what we call lift. This is what allows things and animals to fly. The ability to generate lift means that the wing allows air to move faster over the top and slower underneath, and that creates two different pockets of pressure. And my understanding is the low pressure is what generally generates the lift. This is not a science lesson, but in order to fly, this is what's actually happening. Air is going faster over the top of the wing, creating low pressure. I was going to say creating suction. That's a different word a bit. And air going under the bottom of the wing either has the normal air pressure or high pressure. So it creates lift, and it makes the object or the airplane or the bird go up. Birds do something else to help generate that lift. I'll talk about that in a moment as well. Then we have other ways to fly, and that is, one way is to have something that's lighter than air. So this is a hot air balloon. It doesn't have wings. It doesn't use that to generate lift. Instead, inside the balloon is something that is lighter than the air. That might simply be hot air. That's why it's called a hot air balloon. But it basically has something inside that allows it to rise through the air. In the past, it's instead of hot air, it has been other things I don't want to say the other things. I can't remember what they are. But if you, as a child, ever get a helium balloon, you'll notice that it floats in the air because it is lighter than air. But yes, hot air balloon. Have I ever been on a hot air balloon ride? No, I have not. Would I ever go in a hot air balloon? I don't know. I'm scared of heights, so that would be, I'll have to say probably not. We'll see. I did go ziplining, so altitude. So when something is in the air, and usually we're talking about airplanes and helicopters, when something is in the air, we say its height by using the word altitude. So if an airplane is 500 meters above the ground, we would say its altitude is 500 meters. Sometimes altitude refers to meters above sea level. There's kind of two ways of measuring it, to my understanding. But basically, altitude would be the distance that you would measure from whatever is flying to the ground, or from whatever is flying to sea level, the altitude. Early flying machines. Let me see where I am in my lesson here. So my understanding is that there were a lot of different early flying machines, but we do always look at the Wright brothers in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, I think. I might have my facts wrong. Who built the Wright brothers Flyer, which was a powered, one of the first powered airplanes. I think the first powered airplane, but we would call these early flying machines. So when you're talking about the history of flight, when you're talking about the history of manned flight, flight that takes place with a person. We usually talk about the Wright brothers, and I don't know exactly how they built it. I do know that they were excellent bicycle mechanics, and it had a small, very low horsepower engine, but they were able to fly along the beach. I often wonder if they flew along the beach because they could use the wind to help them, or so that if they crashed in the sand, it was soft. I don't always know the full details. But if you look at pictures, you'll see early hot air balloons, early flying machines, some that didn't work. But if you do some research, it's pretty fun to do. And we call all of this aviation. Sorry, I shouldn't say all of it. When we talk about human beings flying using early flying machines and airplanes, we call it aviation. So if you know someone who's going into aviation, they might be becoming an aviation mechanic. They might be becoming a pilot. They work in the world of human flight using airplanes and other flying machines. And so that is the general term. We call it aviation. Hey, let's do some questions. Let me get a sip of water. Hafia says, yes, Kitty Hawk in North Carolina. John says the small wings are called an elevator. Oh yeah, at the back of the plane. Mode says Brent was due to go hang gliding in Brazil, but I don't know, for some reason he didn't go through with it. That'd be interesting to see if he actually did it. I would not go hang gliding. I would be too afraid of that. Ralph says now Aviator comes to my mind. Great movie. Yes. Okay. Let me get a question on the screen here. Let's see here. Oh, this is a good question. No, that says, hello, Bob. It is a bit off topic, but have any birds moved into the bird houses you and your family built a while ago? And if so, do you know what kind? Thanks, Bob. We haven't put them up yet. That's one of the things we need to do. They're all nicely painted and they're in the shed, but they are designed, the size of the hole is designed to let in a certain bird. So once we do put them up, I will definitely feature them in a short lesson video, and I will let you know. But that's a great question. Thanks, Know That. Let's see here. From Know That. Second question. Hello, Bob. If you were to get a ride in a hot air balloon, for example, for your birthday or win it somewhere, would you do it or pass it on to someone else? Thanks, Bob. So here's the thing. I wouldn't want to do it, but it would make a great English lesson for my YouTube channel, wouldn't it? Like, could you imagine learn English in a hot air balloon? Like, that would be a great lesson. So I wonder if I could overcome my fear of heights with my desire to make a really cool English lesson. So now all of you are thinking about, how do we buy Bob a hot air balloon ride? Is that what you're thinking? No. Masood says, I worked 10 years in the airport. I understand the meaning of those concepts. Very, very cool. Okay, let's see here. Judith says, hi, Bob, my cockatiel. Okay, cockatiel, not parrot. I heard the aerospace industry use the form of the peregrine falcon to make airplanes. What do you know about it? I do know this. If 1,000 years ago, I looked up and saw birds, you would think, how can I fly? And you would probably study birds to see how they would fly. So yes, say hi to Lena for me. Very cool. I know you've mentioned a couple times this week that you have a bird. So thanks for the lesson idea. Let's see here. From Judith. Hi, Bob. Do you think a mirror placed in the cage of Lena would be good or bad for her? Thanks. I don't have any experience with pet birds. I don't know. So I don't know if that would be good or bad. I would find someone who has kept birds for a long time and ask them. I think that would be a good idea. I'm a bad person to get pet advice from. I don't really know a lot. I know how to buy dog food and buy cat food, and I know how to take dogs to the vet, but I don't know much more. From Minosmel. If an airplane is about to land, but there is an issue on the runway, what word is used to tell the pilot to abort the landing? It's the word abort. You've just used it. So if I'm flying a plane and I'm coming in for a landing, and the control tower might say abort, or they might say do a go around. I'm not an expert on the language, but they might ask them to abort and then, do a loop and come back. That would be my yes. From a random Mexican, morning, Bob. Do you have any fun facts regarding flybys? Thanks a lot. So a flyby is simply an airplane that flies by something. When you go to an air show, I didn't put this in the list, but an air show is when you go to an airport and they have all different planes that will fly around and do stunts and things like that. And one of the things they'll do is a flyby. They'll come really low and close to the crowd and they'll fly by. Sometimes airplanes will fly by overhead, but that's not really the same thing. I have no fun facts other than in Top Gun, is in both Top Gun movies, does he do a flyby of the tower? I know in one. From Aziz, Bob, thanks for the lesson. Could you explain the meaning of the word soar and give some examples? The best example of this is to think of an eagle or another large bird that is really high up in the sky. You would say it's soaring. The eagle was soaring above all the other birds, or the eagle was soaring above the clouds. So the verb to soar refers to like flying really, really high in the sky. Should we get the official definition? Meaning of soar. Fly or rise high in the air. The bird spread its wings and soared into the air. So there you go, to soar. Okay, let's see here. From Unibi, hi, Mr. Bob. Have you ever noticed that many aviation terms have, little fix there, have a French background like aileron, fuselage, etc.? As a Canadian, you probably knew it. I didn't know fuselage, but now that makes sense. Yeah, that's the body of the airplane. Cool. Very cool. I did not know that. But there was a history of flight in France as well. There's a lot of hot air balloons and other flying machines. From Vitor, let's raise money to buy a balloon for Bob. I think I told this story before, but one of Jen's flower farming friends had a balloon land in her flower field in the middle of the summer. It was quite an interesting story. From Elena, hello, Bob. I wonder, how do you call the house for pigeons? Off topic, but there's a lot of them nearby my home. So we would probably call it a coop. When you have chickens, you keep them in a chicken coop. If you have pigeons, you probably keep them in a pigeon coop, C-O-O-P. That would be my guess. Sometimes on the top of an apartment building, someone might have a coop and keep a few pigeons up there. I've only seen that in a movie, so I don't know how common that is. Probably not very common at all. Last question, and then we'll get back to the lesson. Bob, the Canadian fan, says, what does aviator mean? An aviator, it's similar to pilot. An aviator is someone who flies an airplane. That would be how I would describe it. Hey, if you're one of the 222 people watching, don't forget that you should subscribe. There's a button right here or down below. Please subscribe and you will get notified when I do a new English lesson. This past week, I went to the strip mall, and that was a very successful lesson. A lot of people are watching it. So if you enjoyed that lesson, thank you so much for watching it. And I just wanted to point out that I'm done all my paperwork here. So this table will disappear soon. But should we get back to the lesson? I think we should. Here we go. So a few simple terms. Aircraft is used to refer to anything that we built as humans that flies. Generally, we use this to refer to airplanes. So this is an aircraft, and it's from KLM, which is the airline in the Netherlands. I tried to represent a couple countries here. We also have airplane to specifically talk about this kind of machine. So aircraft is a general term for anything man-made that flies, whereas airplane refers to this type of machine. 2 wings, engines. Sometimes it's a passenger airplane and sometimes it's a cargo airplane. And usually in English, we just say plane. We don't always say airplane. You can use both for sure. You have what's called a glider. So a glider is a type of aircraft that has no engine. So it needs another airplane. It needs an airplane to tow it up to a very high height so that it can glide So it has really big wings and no engine, and it will just slowly glide to the ground. So not only is glider the name of this machine, it is also the verb we use. So a glider will glide. It's supposed to be very peaceful. There's no engine noise, and you just kind of use the winds to kind of glide and slowly go down and up a little bit too, if you can catch the wind properly. And then we have a helicopter. So I think I might have mentioned this before. When I was a kid, this is one of the things I was hoping to be able to do someday. Not work for the LAPD, but I dreamt of flying a helicopter. So even though I'm afraid of heights, for some reason I thought it was cool. There were a few TV shows like Airwolf, where the lead character had a helicopter. And so it seemed fun to me. But I never pursued that. When you talk about something you wanted to do that you didn't do, you say that you didn't pursue it. And of course, we have pilots and co-pilots. A pilot would be the main person who flies the plane, and the co-pilot would be equally trained and equally competent to fly the plane as well. But for really large planes, you almost always have two pilots, a pilot and a co-pilot, for a few reasons. One, when everything goes well, you only need one pilot, but sometimes things go wrong, and then it's good to have two. It's also because sometimes a flight is so long that they can take turns. You might have a crew of 3 pilots where one is sleeping, one is the pilot, and one is the co-pilot, and they'll rotate as they fly a really long flight. Because like most humans, we can't do something for more than 7 or 8 hours without becoming a bit tired or fatigued. So it's good to have a co-pilot. And then we have, of course, takeoff and landing. So takeoff refers to when the plane is on the ground and then it uses its engines to go up in the air. If you're sitting in a passenger plane, you get pushed back in your seat during takeoff and the plane shakes a little bit. Here, let me mimic takeoff. It's like you get pushed back in your seat and it shakes a little bit. Hopefully not too much. And then I always like the part where, the plane's shaking and it's rumbling a little bit and you can hear the wheels on the tarmac. And then all of a sudden it gets a little quieter. That's my favorite part. Just as the plane, you sink in your seat a little bit and the plane goes up and then it gets just a little bit quieter. So yes, so you have the plane going down the runway. It's a little bit loud and shaky, and then it quiets down a little bit, and then you are in the air. Landing, I don't like as much. I'm always worried when the airplane is landing because you just keep going down, and sometimes it's not smooth. Sometimes you can feel the plane kind of, and then all of a sudden you hear the wheels hit, and then the plane levels out. So that is the landing. I don't have a picture of it, but a little while ago at Toronto Airport, an airplane flipped upside down. It landed and then it flipped upside down. It was actually, I think it was just before one of my kids was flying home from university. So I was like, I hope their plane doesn't do the same thing. So you have departures and arrivals. So when you go to the airport, I didn't want to make this lesson about air travel, but I felt like I do need to mention takeoff and landing. And when you go to the airport to go somewhere, you find the departures area so that you can depart. And then when you land at an airport, people can meet you at the arrivals section of the airport. So I've been to both. I've been to the departures section to drop people off and wave goodbye. And I've been to the arrivals section to pick someone up from the airport. So you drop people off at the departures part of the terminal, and they come in at the arrivals part of the terminal. I like air travel. It's pretty cool. I think it's one of the coolest things that humans have invented. Let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about flying animals. So I didn't just put birds because there are more than just birds that fly. But let's talk about how humans were inspired to fly, what they were looking at that made them think maybe we can do that someday too. So here we go. A bird. So the other day, in my short English lesson, I was out videotaping and I saw a red-winged blackbird. So this is the second reason why I thought I should do a lesson on flight. I was walking along and I saw the bird on a fence. I think it's actually in the video. If you look in the chat, I think Nightbot is sharing that every once in a while. But it was a really cool bird and then it flew away. Birds fly. It's amazing. It must have seemed amazing, almost like magic to ancient people. They probably looked up and thought, how is that happening? How is that bird flying? But a bird would be the most common type of animal that flies. And a bird does something a little different. A bird will flap its wings. So an airplane has rigid wings and it generates lift by moving through the air. A bird has wings that it can flap. This is the verb we use. As the bird flaps its wings, that will generate lift. So that's how a bird is able to fly. And also because a bird has feathers. The feathers very much help the bird to fly. Like a bird wing can change shape, right? It has all these feathers, and as it flies, it can fold its wings in, and then it can spread them out, and it can do different things with its wings and its feathers so that it can fly. We often find feathers on our farm because we have geese, and there are all kinds of birds that fly and live on our farm. So every once in a while you will find a feather, and it's very, very cool. So there's a kind of bird that's called a flightless bird. So even though this lesson is about flight, I thought I should mention that birds like penguins are flightless. We have chickens. They can sort of fly. Like they're kind of in between. Our chickens can fly enough sometimes to, if they can climb on their chicken coop, they can fly over the fence just. Like they can't fly for 100 meters, but they can fly 2 meters. But some birds can't fly at all. Like an ostrich is a flightless bird. A penguin is a flightless bird. Basically, we describe them by saying that they can't do this activity. The bird is flightless. And then birds sometimes, especially pet birds, have their wings clipped. And I wanted to talk about this because when a bird has its wings clipped, then it can't fly. And we use this phrase to talk about people as well. So let's say that, let's say there's a race car driver and he's told that he can't drive the car for 3 weeks because he did something wrong. You might say he had his wings clipped. Let's say that someone was prevented from doing an activity they like to do. We would say they have their wings clipped. A good example of this would be a teenager. If a teenager does something bad and the parents say you're not allowed to go out for 2 weeks, you're grounded, we would say they have their wings clipped. So I'm not sure about all the details of this or whether it's even kind to do this, but when a bird has its wings clipped, it means it cannot fly. And then a bird will perch. So we had the verb to flap. A bird will flap its wings. When a bird sits on a branch or a twig, or even in its cage, it will have something called a perch. Or even if the bird is on your arm, like if you were training falcons or something like that, the bird will perch. So when a bird uses its feet to grab something, to stay in one spot, we use the verb to perch. This bird has decided to perch on this small branch. So that simply means the bird is going to sit on that branch. Hey, let's do some more questions and then we'll get back to the lesson. Let's see. Unabi says, yeah, by statistics, landing is the most dangerous part of the flight. Hafia says, longest flight I've been to was about 16 hours. I've never flown that long. Oh, wait, I did. From Paris to Johannesburg was 12 hours, I think. So almost. Let's see. The bird's wearing a German flag. Yeah. Vitor says you float like a feather in a beautiful world. As far as I know, not the wings itself, but the connected muscles. Humans are so bad. Oh, yeah, talking about that. Yeah. Okay, let's get to the questions. I'm getting distracted here. And we're going to do members only chat. That's why we are pausing for just a moment. So what is members only chat? This is when, if you are a member, you can ask a question directly in the chat. If you are one of the 273 people watching, I recommend that you don't leave. We will get back to the lesson in a moment, and you can continue to answer questions using the form as well. So I'll kind of bop between the form and members only questions for the next little bit. From Sufyan. Hello, Bob. How are you? I wonder, got to switch the A for an O. I wonder if the Canadians prefer traveling in planes or road trips inside of Canada. Going to add an of there as well. Both. We need to travel by plane in certain situations. If I wanted to drive from here to British Columbia, the Canadian province that's on the Pacific Ocean, it would take 48 hours to drive there. That's a lot of driving. And so I would most likely fly. If I was to go to Quebec City, it's only about, I think Montreal is 11. No, I think Quebec City is 11 hours. Might be wrong there. I would most likely drive. So I think it's probably both. Canadians, by necessity, need to travel by air. And sometimes it's close enough that you can go by car. Either way, it is very, very enjoyable to view Canada from above, from an airplane window, or as you drive. From Unibi, sorry for flooding. I've just remembered the word chassis, another aviation term with French background. We use chassis to talk about cars as well. Yeah, it's like the underneath frame of the car, the chassis. Yeah, very good. Okay, from Know That in the chat. Hey, Bob, does any of your neighbors have an agricultural plane for their farm or more specifically for their fields? Or is that not so common where you live? Thanks in advance. It's less common than in some parts of the United States, but you can hire someone to put fertilizer or other things on your field using an airplane here. Though the other day, a couple weeks ago, I saw my first agricultural drone flying above a wheat field, probably putting fertilizer on the wheat. So I think that will become much more common in the future. So when I was a kid, there was one time when I remember my dad hired an airplane to put fertilizer or seed on a field, but it's probably more common in the US where they have larger fields and flatter fields. Here it's quite hilly. There's a lot of trees and there's a lot of power lines, so it would be difficult. But yeah, I saw my first drone putting some kind of product onto a field. Ralph says, no question, but I used the time in another browsing video to find Blu-ray version of Aviator. My collection only contained the DVD version, so thanks for the topic, Bob. Well, I'm glad I could help you find that copy of it. It's an interesting movie. Let's see here. Questions from Judith. We have, hi, Bob. An interesting fact. A kind of sparrow cannot fly away from the ground if they landed there. Someone needs to lift them up. They are perching usually. Oh, interesting. So when they perch, they can drop to start flying. But if they're on the ground, maybe they can't flap their wings fast enough to get lift. Interesting. From Freddie Wolf, when birds flap, you can hear clearly the bird flying, whereas when an owl flaps, you almost can't hear it due to its special wings. The aviation engineers are going to adopt it to their airplanes. Oh, for sure. That's interesting, eh? That the owl is so quiet. Probably because it's a bird of prey. So it will be hunting. A bird of prey is a bird that hunts like mice and other small animals. So it makes sense that it would want to be as quiet as possible. From Know That, what are your plans for the weekend, Bob? Do you have anything special planned, or are you and Jen busy on the farm and the preparations for the upcoming market? Thanks, Bob. A lot of farm work. I have to mow a lot of lawn. I have to do a little bit of spring cleanup outside. And I think that's it. I think we're just happy that we're done our taxes. So I think we might just take a little bit of a break Saturday afternoon and do something fun, but we haven't decided yet. It's not a hot air balloon ride. Let's see here. From Munis Mill. Once you taught us the phrase, go fly a kite. Is high as a kite related? No, they're both talking about kites. So a kite is I was going to say toy, but it's more than a toy. It's like it's a flying thing on a string, and you hold the string and you fly a kite. So let me explain the two. If I say go fly a kite, it's the same as in English saying get lost, or I don't believe you, go fly a kite. But high as a kite means that someone has used drugs or alcohol to alter their mood. So they've used mood enhancing drugs of some kind. You would say they're high as a kite. Let's see here. Key Park. Hi, Bob. Can we call drones aircraft? The bigger ones, yes. I wouldn't call it, like if you had a small personal drone, I wouldn't call it an aircraft. But the one that I saw being used by a farmer, I would. It was enormous. Like it was this probably half the size of a small car. Like it was pretty big. So I would say it's aircraft. John says, hello, stranger. As always, no questions. Just listening and learning my 1% a day to reach 365% by the end of the year. Hey, guys, don't hesitate to give me a thumbs up. Thanks, John, for reminding people of that. Paco San says, hi, everyone. Hi, Paco. Afia says, not sure if anyone has seen the famous YouTube vid titled Kiwi. It's a short animated vid of a Kiwi learning how to fly. Sad vid, pretty old vid, posted 18 years ago. 49 million views now. I should watch that later, even though it sounds sad. No, that says, regarding drones, Bob, in Jen's videos from the farm, you can see shots from above every now and then. Do you do this with the help of a drone or other tools? A heartfelt thank you. Jen has a really long selfie stick. And if one of us holds it in the air really high, it almost looks like a drone shot. But we don't have a drone. We'd like to get one, but they're a little pricey. Maybe this year. Michaela says, what is your mindset today? My mindset today is get to the end of the day. I don't know if you can sense that, but I just want my day to be done, but I have quite a bit to do yet today. No, that says, thanks a lot for answering my questions. No problem. Let's get a question on the screen here too. Let me make sure I answered this one. Yes, I did. From Elena, does the word animals refer to birds too? I thought we use it for mammals. May I use it for snakes, dinosaurs also? Yeah, anything that's not a human and not an insect, I would probably call an animal. Yes, birds are definitely animals. Should we check if the internet agrees with me? Let's see here. Are birds animals? Is a bird considered an animal? Animal means any animal with a skeleton, including mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, and fish, but does not include human beings. So yes. Would I use it for dinosaurs? No. Snakes? Yes. I would say snakes are animals. One of the scary animals. Let's see here. From Mikhailo. Hi there, Teacher Bob. Have you ever flown across the ocean? Little fix there. If yes, then how was it or where? So I flew to Paris, France once as a connecting and caught a connecting flight to Johannesburg, South Africa. That's where I went. John Wedge says, sorry, give me a thumbs up. Give Bob a thumbs up. You can give John a thumbs up too if you want. That's fine with me. Let me see if there's another question here. No, I think we're good. I think we're going to turn off members only chat. And we are going to finish this lesson off. Let's do that for a sec. There we go. All done. I'll have another sip of water and then we will finish this lesson. Thanks for being members, by the way. If you don't know what that means, what am I looking for here? I lost my, oh, there it is. If you don't know what that means, members have decided to click the join button, which might be a subscribe plus button now. It's going to change. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. And they decide that they would like to support the channel. When you do that, you get a lesson plan on Mondays, an extra video on Wednesdays, Your name is in green during a live lesson. You can participate in members only chat. You get a little crown beside your name during a live lesson. And there was something else, but I can't remember it. Something like that. That's what you get if you become a member. So if you want to do that, there is a join button somewhere or a button that says subscribe plus. Have a look at that, and that will help you get that done. No, that says maybe you put the forms for your tax return somewhere else to cover your tracks for us, Bob. So we think you're done. Just kidding. Oh, I was so happy to be done. Wednesday afternoon, we were completely done. So that was nice. We did all the important paperwork, all the stuff we needed to do on the computer with Revenue Canada. Everything is done. Freddie says, do you think that your chickens will be able to fly one day? They can fly a little bit. It's almost like they can jump, flap their wings, and fly about, I would say 2 meters, maybe max, something like that. Earlier, someone was asking when I do these live streams. I do them every Friday morning at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. So that's when they happen. But let's get back to the lesson. Here we go. A flying squirrel. So I wanted to put this one in here because I wanted to make sure you knew that other animals can fly, and also because the word squirrel is very hard for English learners to pronounce. This is a flying squirrel. Not every squirrel can fly. The squirrels that live by me, the squirrels that live on my farm in the trees, can't fly. But there are places in the world where there are flying squirrels. I would actually say this. They're more like gliding squirrels. So they put out their body, I wouldn't call them wings, so that they can float down to the ground. Should I say the word squirrel a few more times? This is a flying squirrel. It can climb up a tree, and then it can jump off the tree and kind of fly to the ground. A flying squirrel. And there's also bats. We do have bats on our property. We like bats. Bats come out at night and they fly around and they eat insects. So the more bats you have on your property, the less insects like mosquitoes you will have. So the more bats, the better, even though I find bats a little bit creepy. They're, the flying squirrel is cute. The bat is a little scary in my mind. I like bats. I don't like seeing the bats. I like it when they do their work at night, when I can't see them eating all of the insects. And then, of course, let's talk about a few human activities related to flight. So we have things like skydiving. Skydiving is when you jump out of a plane, something I will never do. And then you open your parachute and you slowly float to the ground. So again, you jump out of the plane. Your ripcord might automatically be pulled when you jump, or you might actually go in free fall for a while. That's where you just fall through the sky until the altitude says whatever you want it to be, and then you would pull your ripcord and your parachute would open up, and then you would slowly float to the ground. Why would Bob not go skydiving? Number one, I'm afraid of heights. Number two, I'm afraid the parachute won't open. I have two fears. One, I don't want to be that high in the sky. Two, I'm afraid the parachute will not open, or we sometimes say deploy. The parachute might not deploy. That's just frightening for me. We also have hang gliding. I think this has been replaced a bit with paragliding, maybe. I'm not sure exactly what is more popular right now, but hang gliding is when you have a large kite-like contraption, I'll call it, so that you can kind of glide and float through the air. So you would go hang gliding and enjoy the slow gliding descent to the ground. We also have something called a jetpack. I think this is called a hydro jetpack. There's also jetpacks where you have jet engines. And basically it's like a backpack. A backpack is a bag you use when you go to school and you put your books in it. A jetpack looks the same, except it has jet engines, or in this case, it has water nozzles that shoot high pressure water so that you can pretend to fly. or fly. I mean, you're not pretending, you're actually doing it so that you can fly. I would try this, I think. Although I wonder how, you probably have to be quite strong to use a jetpack. And then paragliding. So paragliding is kind of a combination, you can see, between skydiving and hang gliding, or one of those other things. So basically you are flying through the air on this type of wing and kind of gliding to the ground. I'm not an expert on paragliding, but it's also something I'm never going to try. Well, I did have a slide for hot air balloon, but it's not in the folder. So that was the last slide. I was thinking hot air balloon is the last slide, but that's it. That's the end of the lesson. Let me take some time to answer a few questions, both from the chat and from the question queue, and we will finish off this lesson. Here we go. From Mesuad, I worked in the airport as a bird hazard prevention officer. Could you give me more information about bird strike hazard? I want to learn more concepts with English. So bird strike is when, this isn't very nice, but when an airplane takes off and if there are birds flying, a bird can go through the engine. So the bird obviously dies and the engine is damaged. So it's a very dangerous thing. There are a lot of geese in Canada. They try to limit the amount of geese that are close to the airport because they don't want a bird strike situation where the bird goes through the engine, or simply the plane flies into the bird, I would believe would be called bird strike as well. So very, very dangerous. Elena says, can anyone explain to me the difference between skydiving and paragliding? As for me, they use the same tool. Yeah, I think they're slightly different. I think it's a slightly different wing. So hey, Brent's here. Hey, Brent, how's it going? Good to see you. Hope you're having a good day. I'm not sure if you have to work today or if you're at work already, but nice to see you in the chat. Let's see here. Let me get the next question. I know there's a few here. From Hobart, hello, Teacher Bob. Has a Canadian used the plane to protect the architecture plants? How did they use it? Thank you. So I'm not sure exactly where your question's going. But I will say this, we use drones and helicopters and airplanes to inspect things from the air. There is a large set of power lines going through my farm, and once or twice a year, you will see a helicopter flying, 10 meters above the power line. And I think they are checking the power line. We also have natural gas pipelines that are buried underground. And every once in a while, you will see a drone or helicopter flying along the pipeline, inspecting it. So as to your question, I think it's quite common in Canada to use drones, helicopters, airplanes to inspect buildings and other things from the air, just to make sure. Glide is a plane or it's a game? So a glider is something that will fly. Let's see if we can find the glider quickly. It's near the beginning of the lesson. I should have went the other way. There's a glider. So it's like an airplane, but it has no engine. So that's what we have there. And it might be a game. I don't know. Hafia says, catch Bob with English with Lewis if you have not. Yes, I had a little conversation with Lewis from English with Lewis. Brent did as well. There's 2 videos on Lewis's channel. You should go watch both if you have the time, for sure. Let's see here from Sharon. Hi, Bob. Thank you for your lessons. I just want to know, what is the difference between it and its? So its is basically the possessive, and it is just the singular form of it. Hard to describe in one quick little response here. I'll have to think about that one. But basically one is, yeah, it's not you can't have a plural of it. I'm losing track here. I'm going to leave that one where it sits. Let's see here. What did Brent say? You're teaching my class today, thanks. Oh, no problem. I know every once in a while, I'll hear from a teacher that they use one of my lessons in their class. And you know what lessons they use? They use the shorter edited version usually. So this lesson on flight will come out in a couple days. I will remove the user or the viewer questions, and I will make it a straight lesson of about 31 different terms and phrases and words. That'll be about 25 to 30 minutes long. You should rewatch that lesson if you have time, or at least listen to it again. So I often encourage people, when the edited shorter version comes out, either watch it with the subtitles on if you didn't quite understand everything, or just listen to it while you're mopping the floor, driving to work, riding the subway, etc., etc. Just listen to it again. Maybe you're going for a walk, cue it up and listen to it again. So yeah, that'll come out in a day and a half or so. Yeah, or a little under 48 hours. You'll see that pop up on my channel. So you should watch it. Hey, if you're one of the 235 people watching, don't forget to click that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment below and all those fun YouTube things. I am going to see if there's any more questions. And if not, I'm going to wrap this up and go to work. Let's see here. No, that says, thanks for the awesome lesson, Bob. As always, it was uber fun hanging out with you. I wish you and your family a lovely day and weekend. Greetings to Jen and your kids. Well, thank you for watching. Patay says, how does the glider go to the air with no engine? Another airplane pulls it up into the air. It's pretty wild. You should look up on YouTube. You'll see how they do it. Fatih says, have you ever wanted to be a pilot when you were a kid? I wanted to be a helicopter pilot, but that never happened. No. Let's see here. Freddie Wolf says, pilots use glide slopes in order to land their airplane automatically on the runway. Yeah, it's all electronic now, although the pilot has to know how to do it manually as well. Bye to Key Park, Mikhailo, Sia Brent, bye to Know That, Mode Eggs, John Wedge, Hafiez. Let me go back here. Hate, Cat Diary, Elena, Judith, Vitor, Freddie Wolf, Unabi. I'll go back to the bottom. If you say bye, I'll say bye at this point. So bye to Vitor. Bye to Lolly Lolly as well. Bye to Hafiez and everyone else who is here. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye to Larry78. Know That. I think I said bye to Know That already. Anyways, have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the nice weather if you're having it. Enjoy sitting inside and watching bad weather if you're having bad weather. And I hope you have a good weekend. And I'll see you Tuesday with a new lesson. And I'll see you next week, Friday, with another live lesson. So bye. Have a good day.